Shout out to Vacation Bible School. I walked down the aisle at Vacation Bible School and I sat there and heard my pastor talk about the Jesus who laid down his life and gave it for us so that there would be a way for us to make it from where we were to where God is.
Rewrite.
New life, new beginning.
Hey, I'm Jonathan Unthank. Welcome to another episode of Rewrite Podcast. And today, man, so excited to have my friend Micah Tyler. What's up, man?
Yo, man, pumped to be here, Jonathan. Thanks for having me.
I know recently you and your family happened to be in Israel while all of the conflict in the Middle East was going on. Man, if you got a second, tell us a little bit about that and how the
Well,
Lord protected you through all that.
I'm gonna change one part of your statement there.
Yeah.
We almost made it to Israel.
Oh man.
So the thing is, we had some friends reach out to us. Some very sweet people said, "Hey, would you like?" They take groups to Israel once or twice a year now for over a decade, and we met up with them, and they said we want to bring your family. So this has been a trip in the works for a year and a half, and of course, there's always some sort of disturbance going on in Israel, especially now between like Palestine and Israel and everything going on there. But they assured us, and they said, "Hey, we've taken a group over since all this stuff has started and everything." We go over here, but like Jonathan, the list of things that we were going to see, literally, we're walking around and we were going to see where Jesus was born, where Jesus supposedly died, where he was resurrected, where this miracle happened, where that miracle happened. I was supposed to sing on the Sea of Galilee while on a boat at sunset. We were going to have we're going to do a communion at the same site as the resurrection. Like this was like a dream trip. It's been a bucket list for my wife and I for our entire marriage, and so we were so looking forward to it. Um, a week before we were supposed to fly out at the beginning of June, um, the airline that we were using said, "Hey, we're not flying into Tel Aviv for the next week. We're going to change your flights." So then we had to fly into Amman, Jordan, which is 20 miles from the border. It's 66 miles from Tel Aviv. But the plan was going to be we're going to fly into Jordan. We're going to move it over one night. We're supposed to fly the night before, fly over the next night, stay the night in Jordan, next morning get up, go see something in Jordan, and then ride over. And then we were going to spend 13 days in Israel. That was the plan. So everything goes as planned. We fly out of Chicago, we fly to Germany, we fly from Germany to Amman, Jordan. We land at like 10 o'clock at night. We leave the airport at midnight. We get to our hotel at 1, where there were this big group of 18 people. We kind of get to meet everybody, say hello. We go to bed that night around like 2:30. We've got my wife and I, our 3 kids. And we woke up at 7 o'clock in the morning to our phones just being filled with the fact that Israel had just sent missiles over to Iran. Like legitimately, we landed in the same sky that missiles were flying overhead not too long after that. So immediately, again, it's an 8 hour time difference. So when we're getting at 7, our family back home at 11 o'clock is absolutely freaking out because they're seeing all this before they go to bed. We're doing our fair share of freaking out too. Um, we go downstairs and start talking to the group and kind of sitting there like, hey, for right now, we the bridge is closed to Israel. We can't even get over if we wanted to. We feel like Jordan is safe. We started making phone calls of people that we knew who knew other people. Next thing I know, I'm getting messages from the Jordanian government, from the Israeli government, from people who are in special forces in the U.S. who are stationed over there. Like the Lord really protected us in a way where all of a sudden I'm getting maps of like, if you have to escape, here's the route that
Mm.
we would go. If you had to fly out, here's where you're going to go. Don't fly to this place. Try to get here. And it's this whole thing. Because then all of a sudden the Jordanian airspace was closed down. So Jordan was completely locked and we couldn't get out. It was just one of those things where you are just there. And we had the opportunity to sit in a hotel room, hunker down, and cry ourselves to sleep every night. But all of a sudden, the same peace that has met me in hospital rooms, the same peace that has met me out on the road when I'm missing my home, the same peace that has met me in so many avenues in my life, the same peace that met me at Vacation Bible School when I was 10 years old, sitting on a pew at Central Baptist Church, all of a sudden fills up our chest. The group leaders we had were incredible. And all of a sudden, this became a trip to what did God do in Jordan? The next day, legitimately, Jonathan, we're hearing sirens going off in the city of Jordan. They have sirens set up all over the city. And all of a sudden they start speaking in their language right after the siren went off. And our guy was standing there and he listened. He said, "Oh, they're just letting everyone know that if these sirens go off to listen to our commands, you may have to get in your bomb shelters." And all of a sudden we're on a bus and we're driving out to Mount Nebo. So Mount Nebo in the Bible, very famously, Moses had been in the wilderness leading the Israelites around, doing a real good job for the most part, and he got mad and he struck a rock. And God said, "You don't get to go to the promised land now." And Moses gave him a little bit of a, "That's not fair." And God said, "You know what we'll do? We'll go to Mount Nebo. I'll let you stand on top of it. I'll let you look and I'll let you see the promised land, but you can never go over." So that's where we went. And I'm standing on this mountain and I'm looking over, and they said, "That's where Israel's at." And we're looking over going, "Huh." And we never stepped foot in Israel the entire
Wow.
trip. So we ended up, but we ended up going to Petra, which is one of the seven new wonders of the world. We got to go to the baptism site of Jesus, the Jordan River. They got to, like, where they actually baptized people from our group, which was awesome. You could whether they need to be baptized for the first time or if you just wanted to walk in the feet of Jesus and be baptized in the same river. So my wife actually, who's was baptized when she was third grade, went down there and was actually like got to go down there and be baptized in the same waters and like just kind of like following the footsteps of
Yeah,
Jesus in a way
yeah,
where it doesn't make her more holy, but lets her do a holy thing.
sure.
But what the wildest part of that whole thing was, the closest we got to Israel was there on the when the Jordan River goes through. We look across and it's probably a 20-foot river there, wide. It's not but 4 feet deep, but we're looking across and there's an Israeli flag on the other side. So we were 20 feet away from Israel,
Wow.
but never got to go. But at the same time, was completely protected. We ended up uh, as soon as they opened up the Jordan airspace, we got there on the 13th and we left on like the 19th, I think. And so it was nearly a week or about a week. And but no, then we flew from Jordan at midnight, flew to Cairo, Egypt. Um, then we flew to Germany, then we flew to Chicago, then we flew to home in Houston, then we drove 2 hours back home. So it was 41 hours of travel of us kind of escaping when we got the chance to go. But the thing is, the Lord redeems all things. So we got to see some incredible things. I got to understand things about the Lord. The new music that I'm working on right now, the new record that I'm working on right now, is really talking about mountains and valleys. Working title right now is Mountain High, Valley Low, and the plan is going to be to give everybody a split record. Half are mountain songs and half are valley songs.
Oh,
And
nice.
and for the because we just walked through a lot of tough stuff in the last year. um but there's a lot of goodness this thing about too. So on one side of the record is God did it, and these songs that just talk about the triumph of knowing who Jesus, what he's done, and who we can walk in that light now. And on the other side are just some really tough songs that honestly tell where we're at right now, but also try to give room for the gospel to still be the gospel too. um but for the longest time, I thought mountains bad, valleys good. No, sorry, mountains good, valleys bad for the
Mhm.
longest time. But the even on this trip, the Lord, and I've been thinking about mountains and valleys now for the last 6 months. We've been writing this record. But the thing that the Lord taught me, every time we climbed those mountains and got higher, there were less people. The ground got rockier. It got lonelier. We're standing up there looking where Moses stood, and I go, Moses didn't feel good about this. In fact, the Bible says that after Moses saw this, he ended up dying in an unmarked grave. Like no one even knew where his resting place ended up being. But when you sit on top of those mountains and you look over the beauty of the whole thing, you look into the valley, and that's where all the green is. That's where all the gardens are. That's where all the life is at. That's where the people live. And so, even though we've been walking through these valleys and it's been really tough, the Lord revealed to my heart that that's where things grow. So, we're trying to trust that right now, that even in a season where it's tough right now, on a trip where I've got my three babies with me, my wife, and I'm trying to be the protector, and it's out of my hands because we're just trusting that there's not going to be a bomb come over this state line and hit us on this other side of this country. I'm still able to look over and go like, okay, God, you're still doing things in the valley right now. And so it was a life-changing experience for our family in a lot of different ways. But yeah, man, it was one of those wild situations that I never would. It's not a trip that we would have taken if we would have known what we were going to go through. But looking back on it, I'm super grateful that we were able to go through that. That the Lord, we felt His protection and His safety and His security and His peace through the whole thing. But also that we got to lean not on our understanding, but trust in the Lord in those ways, and see Him walk us through it.
That's amazing, man. I'm glad you're safe and back home, but you have the story to tell and the
Yeah,
experiences to share with
you
that.
you're the first person I got to tell it to.
Oh,
We
that's
we kind of
awesome. Hey,
we put it on Instagram and everything, but it's the first interview I've got to talk about it with. So
that's
hope it
cool.
wasn't. I'm still processing some of it. So if it's
Yeah.
a little long winded there, that's just me going through like what we're still trying to kind of process what God did in our lives last week.
Dude, this is a fun opportunity just to dig deep in your relationship with Jesus and how it all
Mm.
started. Share your story. That's what the Rewrite podcast is all about, man. So have at it, man. I'd love to hear what God's doing and has done in your life.
So any of the boring parts, then I can rewrite it and make it sound more exciting. Is that how this works? Like just kind of throw in some like just more daring and dangerous things. No, man, honestly, for the longest time, especially growing up, I was really embarrassed of my testimony because it was so plain and it was so what I thought was uneventful and I thought it was boring. But now looking back on it, I realized that I lived in a miraculous household. First off, a little bit strange. So, uh, my mom is Baptist and my dad's Catholic. So I was a Catholic until I was about 10. Okay. Literally going to catechism training on Wednesday nights and then going to Sunday school on Sunday, which I think, looking back on it, definitely could have caused some confusion, but for some reason, from a very young age, I got to learn my parents' faith kind of from the ground up a little bit and kind of where they were coming from. Now, my little brother Daniel, who was 6 at the time, he's 4 years younger than me. So I was 10, he was 6. I went to vacation Bible school at Central Baptist Church, the church my mom was having us in. And listen, the thing is, the Catholic Church there's a lot of beauty and there's a lot of great things there, but there just wasn't anything that was coming alive in my chest in that place. And I think my dad could see that, but there was something about me hearing the gospel at my mom's church that really was just like I was asking lots of questions and all those kind of things. But it was Vacation Bible School. Shout out to Vacation Bible School. Like, I mean, I know that's one of there's a lot of new exciting things that churches do nowadays, but I gotta tell you, there's something about the that old sugar-free punch and those off-brand cookies on a napkin that they give you after you've been sweating at wreck for an hour and a half. And then they file you in single file, and you're in this with your group leader, and you're trying to dunk the youth pastor in the dunk tank, or save enough money to make the children's minister kiss a pig or whatever. I know that seems like an old-fashioned thing, but I'm telling you, when I was 10 years old, I walked down the aisle at Vacation Bible School and I sat there and heard my pastor talk about what sin has done. He showed this illustration of these two cliffs, and on one cliff was God, and on one cliff was us, and the separation in between was sin, and we could not make it across. And there was no way. The only way for us to try to get over is if we jumped, and if we jumped, it is death for us because there's no way for us to make it. The gap is too wide for us. So what do we do? And all of a sudden, he had this again, showing my age here a little bit. He pulled out transparency, laid this cross on top of the projector,
Yeah.
and this cross bridged the gap. And he said it's because of Jesus who laid down his life and gave it for us so that there would be a way for us to make it from where we were to where God is. And the only way to get there is through Jesus. And I just remember hearing that. And again, did not have a house that saw violence, did not have a house that saw hatred and had dispute or had anger in it and those kind of things. It wasn't like I was knocking over liquor stores when I was 10 years old and I had this big giant testimony that I needed God to save me from. But even then, I just felt this shift in my heart where I'm going like, man, God, I'm a sinner and I need to know who you are. And so yeah, I went home that night, did not walk an aisle, did not sign a card. I went home that night and just asked my mom questions. And so I just kind of asking her about what that means. She said, so do you want to know Jesus as your savior? I said, I do, but I want to talk to the pastor about it. So the next day, went there and sat in the exact same seat. He told the same sermon again, used the same illustration, threw the cross up there on the transparency. And I found myself walking down this aisle and sitting next to a dear lady she's a saint. She's going to be with the Lord now. Her name's BJ Albert. And we prayed together and filled out the little card and turned it in. Got baptized in that church about a year later. My brother did not ever go to CCD training, whatever. I think my dad really, and again, my dad being one of my heroes, I think he just saw what God was doing in our lives and didn't want to interfere with what God was doing. And so my brother and I both grew up to become youth pastors in the Baptist church. Like we both grew up. So like, and my dad's been one of the biggest supporters and been such a completely just like support everything that we've done and it's love what the Lord's done in our lives and everything. And so yes, it was a guide. It was an absolute just like godsend to have parents who didn't want to fight over who was going to be right and wrong. And so from a young age, I also got to see what it looks like for people who may have a different point of view on certain aspects of God's word, but also being able to come together and say, but at the end of the day, if you build a life upon Jesus, if Jesus is where the center of this whole thing sits, then there's something you can build on top of. My parents have been married for 44 years. And so when my brother passes away from cancer 6 months ago, I'm just telling you, if their marriage or if their lives were built on a denomination or a church, that whole thing would have crumbled and fell
Mhm.
apart. If our faith was built on who was going to be right and wrong at the end of the day, on semantics of certain things, that thing would have fell apart. But at the end of the day, I saw my parents grieve and walk through the deepest valley of our entire lives, but with this faith of who says that he is. And so again, I kind of, and I know that I was able to walk through that thing as well. And we're still walking through it right now because of Vacation Bible School when I was 10 years old.
Man. You're talking our language, man, because that is something. I mean, I'm looking at you telling your story right now, and just your eyes are bright, man. What is it like telling your story? I mean, what does it do to you? I mean, in your heart when you're
Yeah.
telling someone what God is doing and has done in your life.
I mean, listen, in my life, again, now that I'm traveling full time and I'm meeting people all the time, I hear some of the wildest testimonies in the world. My buddy Wesley Keziah, who's closer he's over in North Carolina. Um, one of my just a great friend. He was the guy we featured in the Walking Free music
Hmm.
video. Wesley was arrested 82 times. He was a heroin addict. He lost his dad right next to him in a car from a drug overdose. Lost his brother in a car accident the next week. Was spiraling out of control. Had lost his family. Had lost it all. Was in a jail cell on his 82nd arrest. Someone told him, "Aren't you tired of running?" And from that point, he realized he had to give his life to Jesus, and everything turned around. And he has been sober now for about 10 years. He started a ministry that is crazy impactful, that is all this stuff. And for years, he'd be like, "So what's your story?" And I would almost swallow my tongue when I heard people like that and go, "Man, mine is what a small little testimony." But brother, I'm gonna tell you right now, th- I look at Wesley's story as a miracle, but I've realized that my story is a miracle too. I grew up in a house where I didn't have to learn the destruction of my sin to understand my need from being saved from it. Now, I have grown up with plenty of opportunities to see the destruction of sin in my own life, in my family's life, in friends' life, in just around the world. I hear testimonies all the time. So I am so grateful nowadays to live in a home with a mom and dad who have been married their like my entire life, that raised us in a home that loved Jesus, that we got to hear the gospel from a young age, that I didn't have to, grow up finding and sifting through the gospel, through the muck of this world, but instead was presented to it freely inside of my own home and was brought to two different churches for me to be able to get an opportunity to hear it. Like it really is. The older I get, the more that I realize in this day and age, that I actually have a miraculous testimony too. And so it's very special. It makes me super appreciate my parents and makes me want to be able to give the same opportunity to my kids too.
That's awesome, man. Thank you for sharing that with us. That's such an encouragement. This is Rewrite, Stories of New Life in Jesus. I'm Jonathan Unthank. If you'd like to join a community of listeners who enjoy hearing the life stories of Christian music artists and influencers, then join the Rewrite text group by texting the word Rewrite. That's REWRITE to 81891. But more importantly, if you'd like to dig deeper into your own relationship with Jesus, you can begin that journey today by texting his name, Jesus, to 81891. God bless you. Join me next time for another episode of Rewrite.